This postgrad degree program will train a new kind of ecological economist. In order to be admitted to study in the program, you must already have studied a lot of chemistry in your bachelor's degree program, and so much the better if you are familiar also with one or two sciences based on chemistry or biochemistry, or with farming. The reason why I have invented this program is that most economics professors, even now in the third decade of the 21st century, are hesitating to take seriously the decline of the capacities of our planet Earth to supply natural services such as serviceable weather and valuable natural goods such as fossil fuels, ores, and good topsoil to humankind at an adequate rate. Some economics professors have begun to express concern about the one particular kind of environmental degradation, climate change, that has received the most publicity. One of the best of the economists, Paul Krugman, understands that, and I quote, "While it will take generations for the full consequences of climate change to play out, there will be many localized temporary disasters along the way. Apocalypse will become the new normal." End of quote. I used to be innocent of the fact that my own upper middle class American way of life would help inflict such disasters on future generations. We elderly middle class folks ought to take seriously our dharma to try to mitigate the harshness of the forthcoming so-called natural disasters due to various aspects of the environmental degradation that our own ways of life have helped in various ways to cause. That's why I have devised this radically new program of studies. And by the way, I'm not paid. I'm doing it because it's important. A huge background fact is that although 21st century economics professors speak of two kinds of ways of assessing so-called natural capital, they themselves can apply only one of them. The two ways are called weak sustainability assessment and strong sustainability assessment. Market economists can do the weak kind, but the strong kind can be done only by people who have studied chemistry and this or that science making use of chemistry, such as mineralogy, materials science, meteorology, agronomy, nutrition, or epidemiology. Many economics professors have studied physics, but it's quite likely that there does not exist at any university anywhere in the world an economics professor with competence in the science of chemistry or in any science based on chemistry. Weak sustainability assessments assign monetary values to so-called natural capital. A dozen years ago, a team of first-rate market economists made such an assessment of the trees in India by calculating, this was the main factor in their assessment, how much money the lumber from all of the trees would fetch if the current average price per kilogram of lumber didn't die because of a glut in the market. The assessment was based on ignoring that in order to get the lumber, all the trees in India would have to be killed. And then they would no longer be providing fruit or shade, performing photosynthesis and so on. Those particular market economists were plenty smart enough to know this, but they had to get a monetary number in order to make sense to other market economists and businessmen and government bureaucrats. Every weak sustainability assessment of natural capital has some such weird defect. Strong sustainability assessments are assessments of material, physical realities, such as, for instance, how many plants of this or that kind we happen to have in India. What are their ecological and economic functions, and their locations, conditions, vulnerabilities, and so on, and whether this or that kind can be substituted for by cultivating some other kind. Such assessments are vital in order to help determine what it may be feasible to do to alleviate some of the environmental problems that are already beginning historically to render ecological economics important. The MGMU program will include courses in neoclassical economic theory that is taught in economics departments and business schools, but with some criticisms and adaptations instead of offering that theory as universally received truth with a capital T. Here are a few samples of important, strong sustainability questions. What is the regional supply of plants providing the vitamins we all need? How can India achieve Swadeshi in regard to supply of ingredients for pharmaceuticals? What about fresh water in Maharashtra? How will the electric grid continue to function when the supply of copper from the Earth's stock of copper ore becomes exhausted in the next 2 or 3 decades? And here's an example of how our teaching in this MGM program will differ from grade school or undergrad teaching in describing each theoretical concept that ecologists devise, such as ecological footprint, carbon dioxide equivalent, and thermodynamic rarity. Our teaching will explain the units of measure used in making the assessments and will explain how the phenomena under consideration are assessed in terms of those units of measure, and will explain the advantages and limitations of assessing in such terms. For instance, the unit of measure for ecological footprint is hectares, which is useless for estimating amounts of fossil fuels, whereas the unit of measure for thermodynamic rarity is kilowatts, which is useless for estimating vitamin deficiencies, yet each of the various different kinds of units of measure may be well suited to making some useful kind of strong sustainability assessment.